OS has received mainstream attention due to Vaxei's ridiculous 1000 pp plays. Because of that exposure, more people than ever are downloading and trying out the game. That's great. However, OS has numerous problems, bugs, and glitches that those new players will encounter, and they ultimately harm the game in the future if they're not handled properly. Today, we're going to discuss those particular problems, and I will provide some solutions based on my experiences with the game. Additionally, I'll add some of my speculations. The most important issue OS will continue to face is copyright. The question surrounding the entire game is OS stealing copyrighted content and using it illegally to create beatmaps? Or is creating and ranking a beatmap another form of artistic expression? Most people, when approached with this debate, say screw this and place OS in a gray area between the two. This topic is vital to OS's integrity, since if OS is classified as stealing copyrighted content, everything, and I mean everything, except featured artist map sets will be deleted. The more artists that decide to partner with OS and provide us with songs legally, the better off the game will be if a copyright apocalypse ever strikes. The performance point system. Even mentioning it will spawn flame more in the comments section, debating about whether or not it calculates the weight of scores properly, or that one player is better than someone else but they don't farm, in quotes. Regardless of your opinion, it's not a perfect system. I believe everyone can agree to at least that much. However, the true problem lies with people only concentrating on performance points and nothing else. Since PP is what defines rank, people hyper-focus on increasing their rank, which doesn't always mean improving your skill, and disregarding other elements of the game and community. Additionally, it affects new players, because all they see are people who idolize performance points. That isn't inherently negative, but when new players are told that only one thing matters, PP in this case, that is essentially the source of most of our problems, those problems are only going to be exacerbated. Modifying the PP system, which is what I'm about to talk about, would lessen these problems. The first section of the PP system that I believe should be changed is how it calculates PP in accordance to length. It's a confirmed fact that longer maps are worth more PP because they have more hit objects. However, I don't think the extra PP is enough to persuade the majority of players into playing longer and more stamina draining maps. Here are two examples. I have downloaded both the short and long ranked versions of Zen Zen Zens. Sotarks' Insane on Monstrata set and Akatoshi's Expert on his own set have a similar star rating. 5.16 stars and 5.3 stars probably don't feel similar to you, but that's because the long version has more objects and therefore more to calculate into the star rating. Comparing the PP statistics for these maps is where it becomes interesting. My Nomad FC on Sotarks' difficulty with 99.55% accuracy was worth 182 PP. My 99.19% Nomad FC on Akatoshi's Expert was 207 PP. Matching the accuracies doesn't change much, it only adds 10 PP to the longer map. Even though there's currently a recognizable difference, the skills required to full combo the longer map outweigh the benefits of earning more PP from the map. Skills like consistency, nerve control, accuracy, and aim are required considerably more on the longer map than on the shorter one. That's why people prefer to play the shorter version and not even touch the longer one. The only way to truly have more people playing longer maps is if you cater more PP towards playing the longer maps. Returning to my example, you gain 19% more PP if UFC Akatoshi's Expert compared to Sotarks' Insane. Although, if we buff the longer map by say 10%, the difference becomes increasingly emphasized. Suddenly, Akatoshi's difficulty is worth 32% more than Sotarks'. Now, the longer version is more appealing to play because it rewards significantly more PP. And that was the fairest comparison I could make. What I didn't tell you about those two maps is that they have the same overall difficulty, or OD. Increasing the OD on a map increases the amount of PP the map will give. This next example highlights that exceptionally. On the left you have my own map, My Narco, which is a cut version of My Narco Addiction on the right. My map has a drain time of 1 minute 44 seconds, while the long version has a drain time of 5 minutes 8 seconds. And my map is worth nearly the same amount of PP and has a higher star rating, even though it's 3 minutes 24 seconds shorter. What? There is only an 11 PP difference between the two versions, so it's pretty obvious which one most people would prefer to play. Up until this point, I've been comparing maps using no mod PP statistics only. If you add Hidden and Hard Rock, the difference between short and long versions becomes more apparent. However, the majority of the community is not full comboing maps with 2 mods, so that's why I'm disregarding those comparisons. My map has an OD of 9.3, while my Narco Addiction has an OD of 8.5. If we increase its OD to 9.3 to match my map, it becomes 424 PP for SS. Similar to the previous example, the longer version gives 15% more PP than the short version, considering that you double S both maps. If we increase the long version's total PP by 10%, it's now worth 466 PP. That's nearly 100 PP more than the short version, or a 26% difference. 26% isn't as much as the 32% from before, but since we're dealing with more difficult maps that naturally give more PP, it creates a significantly larger numerical difference. Another thing that could be improved about the PP system is that it needs to calculate sliders as well. Right now, it basically doesn't, meaning maps with predominantly circles are subconsciously worth slightly more PP than a map with 50% circles and 50% sliders. Elements to consider for sliders are its speed, length, and if there are any angles between nodes. You could calculate how much PP to give a slider in relation to its speed based on how many pixels the slider ball covers per tick. If the slider ball is snapped to 1/4, determine how long the slider is in 1/4 ticks, and then divide the length in pixels by ticks. For example, using numbers so you could actually understand what I just said. If a slider is 5 ticks long and covers 240 pixels, the slider speed is 48 pixels per tick. The reason why I'm not using slider velocity is that it varies by tempo, so it's never consistent. As stated above, you could determine slider length based on how many pixels the slider body covers. A slower slider shouldn't be worth any less than a normal slider, but if a slider is going ridiculously fast, then it possibly could be worth some extra PP. Angles are where it becomes complicated. Maybe they shouldn't even be included, I don't know. Discuss this in the comments, I'm interested to see what your opinions are about it. There are many other smaller things about the PP system that I didn't specifically address here. Examples include double tap abuse, the argument about whether or not Hidden should actually give extra PP, reading not being accounted into the system at all, things like that. However, the reason why I've spent so long discussing how length should be calculated by the PP system is because it's one of the easiest ways for players to improve, and when players are better at the game, they can provide better information about how something should be changed because they have the experience. When you're playing maps that only require 1 or 2 skills, on songs with relatively the same structure, you're not gaining any experience or generally improving. All you're doing is inflating the amount of performance points you have. And when people have gone into that mindset that PP is the only thing that matters, some have gone so far as to harass other mappers over a system they have no control over. They begin contributing to the problems that have plagued this game for years. So changing the PP system so it accounts for more maps, more songs, more players, and judges them more fairly, that is when the quality of this game will improve, and why the current system is a detriment to the game's progress. What would a video speculating about the future of OS be without mentioning Laser? Since it began development in 2015, Laser has concentrated on recoding OS from the foundation up and modernizing its interface. In tandem is a development of the new website, which is nearing completion at the time of this video. It's fantastic to see Peppy and his team working diligently on a contemporary client, although they grossly underestimated how much time and resources it would require. Unfortunately, my compliments end there. After a few iterations of my script, I found that everything I said could be simplified to make it more like stable. Now, I know it sounds dumb, but generally, people dislike having to adapt or change to something new, which in this case is OS Laser. It would divide the community and create some fierce backlash if OS Stable was going to be discontinued. So, developing a user interface that appears similar to Stable, but maintaining the improved features of OS Laser would help persuade more people to change clients in the future. I'm not saying to directly copy-paste the user interface of Stable into Laser. Laser does a lot of things correctly, but could still be improved by taking inspiration from the optimization of Stable. Examples include having the sort options in drop-downs instead of all spread out, placing the game modes option into one menu, making the back button the home button, and keeping the abbreviations of mods instead of using icons. For all the things that I would like to see changed, OS Laser does something better than OS Stable. Having complete integration with the new website, including the chat, beatmap listings, social browser, and your own profile is amazing. I genuinely find this awesome to mess around with, and it's so intuitive. Too bad map descriptions don't appear in-game. The notification tab is a great addition, along with showing you what tasks are running in the background. I found it interesting to include tags and the points of failure in the description of a beatmap, but I suppose it further reinforces the new website. Finally, the fact that the client lowers volume when you tab out is another intelligent addition. Listen for a second. However, the best change with OS Laser is that it doesn't show the amount of performance points you have. This is another solution to the problems I outlined in the first 9 minutes of this video. Even if it only requires 2 extra clicks, not being told by default what your performance is will lessen the urge to play maps to increase that number. I hope they keep it this way. Constructively highlighting the positives and negatives of OS Laser will help it become an even better client when Peppy inevitably makes the push to change clients. All we can hope for is that it will be completed soon. Mapping has entered a bit of an interesting state. Since players are more responsive to shorter maps that give PP compared to longer ones, that's what more mappers have been creating in order to find large success. I should mention that short maps that do not give a lot of PP are avoided just as much as longer maps too, as exemplified by my own ranked maps. However, it appears that people dislike seeing repetitive jump map number 82 in the ranked section, but don't do anything about it and play it anyway. But most mappers will endure it even if there's hate associated with it, in order to become relevant and popular. This movement has branded certain people as farm mappers, even though they create other things. Depressingly, when people heavily dislike a map and the mapper who made it, community members have gone as far as sending death threats. Do I really have to explain why that shouldn't happen? All that does is create an environment people understandably want to avoid. What if a mapper creates a farm map and then are disliked vehemently by the community? What if they're sent death threats over some circles they placed? These events portray how community members will act in a given situation, and if they act poorly, then it could disinterest curious people trying to learn more about the game. My primary message here is that if you discover a map that you enjoy, send the mapper a message saying you enjoyed it. You're not going to annoy them or interrupt them. Trust me. A heartfelt compliment means more than a number ever will. We need to set the example that being kind should be the norm. Maybe that's what will save mapping. The editor itself needs a complete overhaul, but that's for a different time, since this video and script are already long enough. In essence, the editor has not received any major updates in 7 years, making innovative and creative maps much more difficult to discover. I suppose that means when a map truly is innovative, creative, and special, it's that much more valuable. There are still many other minor issues that I didn't cover extensively in this video. Those include note locking, excessive HP drain, star rating, and oversaturation of certain songs. I can make separate videos about each one of those topics, but that's for another day. Thanks for watching me confront these issues and provide some solutions and speculations about them. Make sure to join my Discord, subscribe, follow me on MySpace, and have an awesome day.